Gary Williams here. Some friends of mine are making a difference in the community, and one of the ways they're doing that is helping to sponsor this podcast. Petroselli Homes Realty Group is a boutique brokerage service located in downtown Niles. They offer a personal and intentional touch to the home buying and selling market. They take the time to learn each client's story, much like this podcast, because to them, the first step in linking buyers to the home of their dreams starts with understanding and a great deal of trust. John and Jennifer Petroselli have had the honor of helping countless buyers and sellers make effective real estate decisions to plant their roots, raise their families, expand their wealth, or simply relax and retire. So if what I've described is what you might be looking for in a realtor, I suggest getting in touch with Petroselli Homes on Niles Boulevard in downtown Niles. Now, coming to you straight from Fremont, California, this is the Fremont Podcast, dedicated to telling the stories of the past and present of the people and places of the city of Fremont, one conversation at a time. Now, here's your host, Ricky B.
Hello, Fremont. You are listening to episode number 13. Wow, cannot believe that we are already on episode 13. You all have been amazing listeners. I have enjoyed interacting with you and talking with you, people who have pulled me aside or reached out to me and mentioned how much they enjoy the Fremont podcast. That has just made this whole process very exciting for me. So I am grateful to all of you who are listening and all of you who have been involved. Those of you who have gone out to discover some of the places of the owners that I've interviewed on here and have shared that with me as well, have made me feel like I'm doing something worthwhile in our community, and that's what I'm hoping for. So thank you all for your work. If you have not yet done it, head over to wherever it is that you listen to the podcast and leave a 5-star review and a kind rating if that is the way that you feel about the podcast, and then share it with a friend. If you know somebody who might enjoy this podcast, share it with them. Well, I'm excited to have Keith Westra with me today in episode 13. He is a man who inspires me. I met him years ago in Niles, and you'll hear more of that story as we get started here. But right now, he is known for his photography, which is really stunning. If you're looking for portraits, whether it's for senior photos or family memories or engagement photos, Keith Westra is your guy, and you'll know why after you listen to this episode. So tune in, stay tuned in, and check out this conversation I have with Keith Westra. I'm excited about my conversation today with Keith Westra, because this conversation kind of models for me one of the inspirations for why I'm doing the podcast in the first place. Keith was somebody that I just casually met by going to the same coffee shop.
How did we even meet?
Yeah.
I think I would walk by and it was like a facial recognition.
Right. He's like, hey, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, and I actually had someone tell me at one point in time, he's like, Keith's the guy, if you need to start a business, he knows how to do that sort of thing. So they're like, touch base with Keith. He knows how to work the ropes when it comes to starting a business and all that stuff. But I love it because Keith, like I said, it was kind of more of an organic relationship that came out of just passing on
I don't think I could remember your name for the longest time. I was like, who is this guy walking in and out of
I know.
about?
I probably gave you my phone number, and you're like, every once in a while, who's this Ricky dude?
But you were talking
number?
about like mountain biking and outdoors, right? Which I was involved in fly fishing, I think, at the time for sure.
Yeah. So because I was working at REI, I worked in REI in the Fremont store for about 4.5 years.
Yeah.
And so I was really into a lot of the outdoor stuff, mountain biking and whatever it could.
Because originally you're like, oh, maybe I could put fly fishing into the category, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Which we do have fly fishing in Fremont, everybody. Used to be a lot better.
Right.
But
So tell me, I want to hear about that, because I think that was one of the first things that caught my attention about you. That was super cool. You were, and I guess I could probably say you still are, a professional fly fishing.
I hate the word professional, but yes, because I don't think anyone's a pro at anything. Like, there's always something to learn.
You can learn something. Yeah.
So
I love that.
But yeah, fly fishing to me has been a huge part of my life, and it integrated into my work life as well. I went to Humboldt State University. That's where, I mean, I fished all my life, but Humboldt was where I oh my gosh, the Mad River's 10 minutes away. Like, I was an art major and I had studio classes, so I could go at night and fish during the day. So
that's awesome.
I fished my college years away.
Yeah.
But I caught the fish of my life, which is my wife there. So
at Humboldt State. Yeah, that was good.
Points.
Hope she's listening. Are you listening?
Yeah. Everyone probably knows my wife, Shreya, which is my better half. She's been working at Niles for over 20 years.
Wow,
and
that's cool.
Been really involved in the community. And she's my rock. But
so you've lived in Niles for about 20 years.
I moved to Niles in 1998.
Okay.
So I got married in 2000.
Okay.
So I moved. My wife's originally from here, and that's how I ended up. A girl brought me to Fremont, and I lived with her grandparents for quite some time because I was working at Orvis, which is a fly fishing store in San Francisco. Because I was like, I want to blend my goal in life was to blend my art degree with fly fishing. That was my goal. That was my end goal. And
hold on. So you were fly fishing on the weekends when you were in school.
Yeah, actually,
but you were getting an art degree?
Yeah. So I started out as a wildlife major because I wanted to be like Ranger Rick. Ranger Rick.
Hey
guys.
Hey there, boys and girls.
Hey there. But no, I wanted to run around, and that's how I got the nickname Nature Boy. Actually, and I have a company, Nature Boy Designs.
Yeah.
So Nature Boy, that started, and I quickly realized that I was terrible in math and science, which it wasn't about just going to, the forest and watching deer and their habits. It was taking these biology and botany, and I failed, miserably failed.
Yeah.
I was just never strong suited in that. I didn't think I had to do that, but obviously I did. So I kind of had to do a backup plan. I'm like, what else am I good at? What else? I met this girl. Humboldt County is amazing. The redwoods, the beaches, fishing. What can I do? Art. I want to be an art major. So my parents were like, how are you going to make money in art? Who makes money in art, Ricky?
Right. I don't know.
I'm like
a 0.5% of.
Yeah.
Honestly,
if it was to me, I'd be living on a beach right now, making jewelry and sculpture and leather work, the things I love, because I'm passionate about, doing stuff with my hands and being creative. But so the art degree happened, and I convinced my parents there was this thing called the World Wide Web and the internet and the coding and HTML. And I was like, there's this company that was called Adobe, and they came out with Illustrator and Photoshop. So I did go strong because I convinced my parents. I was like, I'll be a graphic artist. And they're like, oh yeah, we've heard of this. You can make money in this. And I was like, cool. So meanwhile, I fished.
Yeah.
It's all I did was fish.
That's cool. Man.
I have my first steelhead. I have a picture of me in my dorm room, and I was wearing a sweet little arrowhead necklace because I was hippie-ish. I'm holding this steelhead in my dorm room.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a camera, and I brought this fish home. It was my first steelhead. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you had to hang it up in your dorm room?
I had it in my dorm room. I flayed it down in the laundry room. I barbecued it out back.
So when did fly fishing become a job for you or something that you
So luckily in HSU, Go Humboldt, it's now a Cal Poly school actually. There was a fly fishing class, a PE class taught by a gentleman named Bob Kelly, who was in the physical ed department. And I'm like, I don't need to learn how to fly fish. I already know because the kid in my dorm taught me, right? So I was like, I know this, and everyone was taking it. Yeah. So I walked out after the class to see my friend who was taking it. I was like, let me see your rod. And I start flailing away. And the instructor goes up to me and he goes, stop, and takes my hand and kind of does a little movement. And it was I don't know, it was one of those moments, the lightning hit me. I'm like, dude, I could do this, but I could do it better. Yeah. And so he took me under his wing, and I learned how to fly cast very proficiently because it's a big part of fly fishing.
Right.
If people don't know what, a lot of people will be like, what's fly fishing?
Right. Yeah. Well, I grew up fishing. I used to spend my summers on my grandparents' farm in Michigan, and they have ponds and these small lakes, and we'd cast from the shore. We'd get out in the canoe, and as a young kid, I did more of the bobber fishing than anything else. But I went fly fishing for the first time last year here. I had never been fly fishing before, and it is awesome, man.
It's pretty insane.
It is like an art, as well as
I would say if people want to know what fly fishing is, obviously you can Google fly fishing or hit Netflix and watch River Runs Through It. River Runs Through It with Brad Pitt.
Oh, yeah.
Really started the trend of fly fishing.
Huh.
We call it in the industry like that was the start of the fly shops and the fly fishing. Fly fishing's been around forever.
Sure.
But so back to how I really got into it. So Bob Kelly, the instructor, eventually brought me on as a TA. So I would actually help in learning how to instruct people. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. I showed tons of people how to fly fish, got into fly tying. And eventually when time came to graduate, I had nothing for graphic design lined up. I was actually on my way to Alaska to work for Lodge for the summer.
Wow.
Whole different story, whole different podcast. So we won't go there.
So you graduated with a degree in art. But you were like out the door on your way to Alaska.
Yes.
Wow.
100%. And newly engaged and going to working at a remote lodge, right? And there is no internet, Wi-Fi.
What did your fiance think about that?
She was supportive,
Yeah.
but it was the hardest decision I had made leaving her. Like at that moment, like when you truly love somebody and you truly know that's your person, probably it was that moment. I'd already proposed to her, so I know like I loved her, but getting on that plane and like having a part of you where you're just like, I just don't know how people who go off to wherever, war or whatever, it's just incredible how these connections are with people. But needless to say, I came back early. We could talk about it on a different podcast, but rain, bears, floods, it was crazy. So I came back early and I had nothing lined up. I'd been working at like Big Five in like the fishing department and just doing that. And I was like, I want to still do fly fishing. And her dad actually went to San Francisco for work or something and went to the Orvis store because I got him into fly fishing.
Okay.
And it's like, now I'm hiring fly fishing managers. So he told me, and that's really how I got my start in the fly fishing world.
The industry.
In the industry.
Yeah.
So and that just led to me working for a company called Leland Fly Fishing, which was based in San Francisco. And we were really one of the first to develop a website for fly fishing. There was one other one, but we were kicking it, taking names and making money and not me personally, but the company. But that's really how I learned to associate. I think you said you worked with retail.
Yeah, I worked for REI, and it was the same sort of thing. I loved. I've been camping and backpacking since I was a kid. I love the outdoors, and when I moved to Fremont, I was looking for something that could just pay the bills, Right. And so at the time, it was funny because I had experience working as a barista at a coffee shop. I had experience had a construction background. I applied at all the stores. I applied at Starbucks, Pete's. I just like anybody can give me a paycheck. Lowe's, Home Depot. Nobody called me back, and then on a whim, I thought, well, man, REI would be a great place to work, and I'll just throw my application out there, but they're going to hire somebody else.
Sure.
And they called me right back, and I got the job.
Nice.
But I understand the same dynamic because I found myself, now that I'm in this retail business, people are coming in and asking me questions like, where do I go? What do I do? What's my gear? And I realized that I needed to like really dive into the hands-on experience of it. So I started like getting my gear together and going off on these adventures all over California, and really learned a lot about what to do, where to go, and all of that.
It's the same for me too. What I got into was hosted travel when I started working for Leland.
Okay.
So it was a way for me to experience different areas without paying much money at all. So I slowly got a clientele, right? You get to know the people that come into REI, and there's people that hang out there too much. You're like, don't you have anything better to do? But they want to like prove how much they know. I've been fishing here, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I got the chance to go to, I've been to Christmas Island and Venezuela and different parts of the Bahamas, different parts of Mexico, the Keys, New Orleans.
And that was with fly fishing?
All fly fishing travel.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Amazing.
I've been to some crazy places, and it's probably been some of the greatest experience of my life. We were talking about people earlier, and getting to know a stranger, especially if you can't even speak the same language, but you have such a commonality. I close my eyes all the time, and I remember sitting on top of this patio overlooking the beach in Venezuela. It's this little group of islands called Los Roques, and just talking to this guy in broken Spanish and, having a beer, maybe a little tequila. And it was just an amazing experience,
Wow. That is awesome.
And I'm sure it was for him too. It was reciprocal, know? Is that a word? Yeah.
Yeah.
But also I made, paper airplanes with the kids in Christmas Island. So Christmas Island is a little island 1,400 miles south of Honolulu.
Oh, wow.
It's called Kiribati, and Captain Cook discovered it on Christmas Day. So it's called Christmas Island. And, I showed these kids how to make paper airplanes, and their minds exploded. Like a paper airplane. They didn't have stuff. These were like villager kids.
Wow.
And you probably experienced on your travels too.
Yeah, because I just got back from Africa, and I was in the bush, and the kids that I was, first of all, I was in the Central African Republic, which is like the second poorest country in the world. And for years, it's been the poorest country in the world. But we landed in the capital city of Bangui and then drove 4 hours out into the bush. Wow. And the kids that were in this orphanage are actually... they're kids whose parents were killed by the rebels. That rebellion.
So the stuff they've seen.
And it's just horrible. But the baseline of what is normal for them is so far below what is normal for us, And so the idea of you explaining making a paper airplane and it blowing their mind, just being something that just is really, really revolutionary for them, is exactly what I just got done experiencing for the last 2 weeks in Africa. So great. There's so many things that you just show them or that they are doing. And to be quite honest, there's a lot of things too that we kind of forget the rudimentary aspects of the things that we take for granted.
Absolutely.
The things
Every
that they're
day.
doing. They're cooking their meals over a hole in a piece of like a stove of bricks, and they have the coals underneath, and they keep this pot of coals in the back room of the house going so that they have it for dinner, for breakfast, for lunch. And it's just amazing. Like we think of just turning on the stove and we
take
fire
so
it up.
much for
It's
granted.
crazy.
Water, everything.
Yeah.
It's funny because I do carpool, right? I'm Mr. Mom too during the day. So I pick up 3 girls from Washington High School, go Huskies. And, they'll be like, I told you my car's in the shop over at Daryl's because I drilled a hole in the compressor, whatever. But the girls are like, oh, it's so hot. I was like, you know what?
Right.
It's like 72 and it's beautiful. Like I always tell my kids, you're just lucky to have, we do take so much for granted.
We do.
Anyways, I don't know how we got on the topic of that.
Yeah,
so we'll backtrack.
Yeah, back up.
Okay.
So you fly fishing. You were doing stuff in Venezuela, Christmas Islands.
Yeah. And then I was just in the retail, so I just stuck with the company, and we went through changes. We actually opened up a facility in Sonoma, so we had a casting facility where we teach people, and then we eventually made our own line of rods and reels.
That's awesome.
So Leland, and then we have a company called Red Truck Fly Fishing. All those rods are made in South Korea.
Are you still doing all this?
I pop in and out. My buddy James Park, who now is the owner of Red Truck Fly Fishing. If I need, it's a little bit how I got into photography too, which is like what we'll talk about too. But
exactly,
the photography thing and art thing, because I can wear a lot of different hats through retail. I could, teach a class on fly tying. I could go out and back and do a private casting instruction. I could, do a talk on Christmas Island fly fishing. But I could also, dust and organize and do a window and clean the bathroom. And so I learned a lot of skills. But the one thing, I'll go back, make my mom and dad proud, is I was able to use a lot of my graphic design abilities to help we had an artist that did a lot of our design work, but I would go in and help, do our email campaigns. And then slowly but surely we got bought out by a place in Idaho. So in Idaho pretty much let everyone go except me and one other guy. So we had a warehouse in Idaho, outside Idaho Falls, and I would do customer service, sales, e-blasts, photography, do product photography, and this was all in home, pre-pandemic as well.
Wow. Yeah.
So I did all that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's cool. So we need to talk about your photography,
okay.
but I also want to talk about the fact that Well, I want to know what all you do have going on still.
Sure,
I mean,
absolutely.
because you had the fly fishing, which was what you were in the middle of when I first met you.
Yes,
and then you're doing all these kind of like nature boy designs. And then now you got, I mean, you've probably been doing photography for a while, but now you've gotten into photography as like more of like a main thing for you.
As my source of income. So really what happened is this last year, and it didn't have anything to do with the pandemic, but our company Leland got bought out by someone else.
Okay.
And the current owner was like, hey, I appreciate you so much. They didn't want to take me on. And I was at the point of like, I'm kind of done with retail. I'm 46.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to give you this much kind of severance and, figure out what you want to do. And he knew I was doing photography already on the side. Yeah. So, I did some applications, cover letters, but I'm one of those guys that I'm not going to work a 9 to 5 anymore. I'm kind of my own entrepreneur. Being self-employed is awesome, and I've learned a ton. And a lot of these stepping stones along the way have led me to my photography business. So Nature Boy Design. I started that working with Leland, and it was just an outlet for my mind to create products. I still make them, natureboydesigns.com.
Yeah.
I don't do much of the apparel anymore.
I think my show notes for this episode are going to be like piled up with like Leland, Red Truck, Nature Boy.
And I did Niles Supply Company. A lot of people still say, hey, do you do the Niles stuff, the Canyon shirts? And I did do that. Again, it was something that came out of my mind that I told my wife. I was like, we should make Niles gear.
Yeah.
Rena and Dave Keene, the Niles Museum, the SNA museum was so nice to let me, sell shirts there, and I gave them a small percentage of my sales for the museum.
Did you make the stuff that's over in the place across the street, the Devil's
No.
Okay,
that place is legit, though. You need to do a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
They're like the oldest business in Niles.
Wow. Yeah. I've gone in there a few times and I've seen all the Niles stuff. I'm like, dude, this is awesome.
It's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, so I have lots of designs still. I might bring it back, but I just had to take a break from it. But the photography came about really from Nature Boy Designs because I had to take more pictures of products and content, social media, and get a tax write-off, right? So I was like, what should I do at the end of the year? My buddy's like, you like photography? I was like, yeah, I love photography. And so he's like, buy some photography gear. So I got that. And I didn't really, and my big thing now is portraiture, right? Whether it's families.
You're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm serious. Like I have been around photography most of my life. My dad spent a lot of time teaching me about photography, and I enjoy it as a hobby myself. I hate. I say I hate. Hate is. I need to qualify that. I get scared about doing portrait photography because there's such high expectations, I think, but you're nailing it, man. I love it. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It does mean a lot to me. And it's been one of those things that's been a huge, huge blessing. It really started, I think, again, you said I do photography since I did, develop my own film, all of this, right? Little darkroom, canisters, the whole 9 yards. And then started just doing more landscape products. And I was always intimidated, like you, about people. You're like, ooh, this is a different ball. How are they going to feel? How are they going to react?
Expectations and all that stuff.
Everything. But my niece, who just got engaged, says, Uncle Keith, like, can you take me? And, my parents live down in Santa Ynez Valley, which is beautiful, right? Oak trees, rolling hills. And so I did her photo session with her fiance at the time, and I loved it. And she's like, Uncle Keith, like, these are awesome. I was like, no, they're not bad. And so I slowly, for years before I officially said, okay, I'm going to get my LLC, do the whole thing legit, was just working with people, influencers.
That's awesome.
And some of my favorite ones are I call them UPS, the unexpected photo shoots, where I just see this couple on the beach in San Francisco. I'm like, I know this is weird. And there's other people that do this. I didn't come up with this. But I'm like, can I just do your portraits just for 5 minutes? And like the Indian holiday, which I had known nothing about, which is another great reason about our whole community is the diversity, obviously. But they threw the colors on everything, and they didn't invite me over to take pictures. They invited me over to participate. So the kids said, Keith, come over. And I'm like, wait a second. So I ran, got my camera, and you could look on my Instagram. It was 10 minutes of shooting, and it was just a beautiful moment.
It was awesome. I loved it. Keith Westra photography on Instagram is where you need to go for that. But he captures some really, really great moments. The Holy Festival right before like 2020, like literally right before everything shut down, was one that my neighbor had put together, and they invited us to go out to.
Nice.
And I got photos of me and my family. Yeah. We're all covered in the colors and all that stuff.
It's a celebration of spring.
Yeah, it was fun. It was so great.
It's absolutely beautiful.
So you've captured some really, really great moments, I think, and I think that's one of the things that, and I kind of, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but I do think that as someone, I feel like there's a lot of things that you do that I relate to very, very well, and so like just the idea of not being happy with working or not being, wanting to work a 9 to 5 or doing stuff on your own or just kind of exploring what opportunities are available to you. When I think of doing photography, like I love capturing those unexpected moments and taking advantage of those times where, you go into them and you're like, dude, I need to have my camera because I just want to remember this, and it's not even about manufacturing something that's not there. It's just saying, no, this is a special moment that I want to capture.
Absolutely. And some of my best work, I haven't even published or put out there public because I respect people's privacy.
Right.
So I have this one beautiful set. I wish I could show it, but she's like, it's personal, and it's not like a crazy weird thing or anything. It was just, she was sitting out on the square and I took some photos of her, and it was her. She was having like a rough day and she was just kind of like, soaking up the sun. And it was just like this moment. I just finished a family session. And I'm like, can I just take a couple portraits of you? And she's like, sure. And I emailed them to her and she's like, these are awesome, but I just don't use them. So I respect that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Wow.
So, but you were asking me too, what other things I do. So
what do you do? Yeah.
So Nature Boy Designs, I still do mainly a couple things on there. I gave you one of those, the paracoils. I come up with these ideas and I have to just get them out of my head, or I see an idea and I improve upon it. I feel like everything in life is kind of like an innovation on an innovation, right? Somehow it's
the nature coil is kind of like a lanyard, but it's actually much more useful and more compact.
And it holds a ton of weight and it's compact and you could get different colors and yada yada. So those are kind of cool.
And it's natureboy.com?
Nature Boy Designs. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nature Boy Designs. I still run that. I have one company that's like an everyday carry. It's called Key Bar. They make cool key things like for your keys. They order them by the ton, and then a fly fishing reel manufacturer, Hatch, that carries them as well down in Southern California. Wow. And then I retail them on my site too. But yeah, that's pretty much it now. Like photography is my main gig. Nature Boy Designs. I still do, like just before I got here, I was helping someone who's starting their own business with their logo. So I still do dabble in that. And then my leather working is like, I don't want my leather work to like become a job. That's my only concern, but I am proud of it. And it's one of those decompressing like things.
Can people buy that?
I will have a launch on that through, I'll probably have an Etsy shop. Yeah. It's KAW Handmade, which is my initials, Keith Allen Westra.
Okay.
So now everyone's going to call me Keith Allen. KAW Handmade.
Yeah.
So I have that. So always stuff going on. And we should talk about Fremont a little bit.
I think we should,
Like Niles.
Yeah.
Because one thing, fun fact.
Yes.
Let's do fun.
Yeah,
remember
let's do
our
it.
facts
I want to hear it, man.
Okay, well, I'm going to test you. Ready? Why is Niles called Niles?
Oh, I have no idea.
Right. We're in Niles right now.
Yeah, right.
What's the big draw about Niles? Like what really made Niles?
I mean, the downtown area.
Downtown area. Right. But what happened in 1869? Do you remember? Which is when the railway was completed from Sacramento to San Francisco.
Okay.
So that truly was the last golden spike.
Wow.
Right. So before then, you had to go to Sacramento and then take the boat to San Francisco.
Right. Yeah.
But they found the route through Alameda Canyon, now Niles Canyon, in 1869. So they needed to name the depot. And this is thanks to Rena. And you should definitely have Rena and David Keene on here because he's the kind of historian of the films. He's actually a big name in that industry. So if you haven't been to the Niles Film S&A Museum, which is actually it's spelled phonetically. So it's actually Spohr and Anderson. So S and A.
Okay.
So that's how we got the name S&A. So spend some time in the museum and talk to people because you'll learn a ton.
Yeah.
And I think going back to like community and Fremont and Niles, if you live somewhere, you should know a little bit about it.
Absolutely.
And I think,
it's important
to give it that. But so the train route came through Niles Canyon and they needed a name for the depot. And so they named it after Addison Niles, who was a lawyer for the Central Pacific Railroad and became a California Supreme Court judge later.
Wow.
So there's a fun fact.
Yeah, no idea.
You know, it's funny because
awesome.
you say Niles, everyone's like, Charlie Chaplin, Charlie Chaplin, Charlie Chaplin, go. You know how long Charlie Chaplin was here?
It just very short.
He came, I think, around Christmas 1914 and left in like May of 1915.
Wow.
So it was a very short time, but he made some of his mark here. He made his films, but you know, there's more to Niles than just Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, right.
You know, and a lot of people call Niles, oh, it's the original Hollywood. Go say that to the people in the film museum and you'll get a mouthful because it's not. You know, there were other studios happening at that time. Yeah. So we kind of it's like that game Telephone, right? Like Ricky, right? Like,
By the time it's all the way done,
this
you're like,
is his house. And it's all discombobulated. Yeah. So, you know, I love learning little facts about that, like Niles. Yeah. And
so, I mean, what are some of the things that you've enjoyed since you've lived here?
Gosh. Not to leave Niles. No. I mean, I know this is the Fremont podcast and nothing about that, but you know, coming and living like in a town of like Arcata where I went to school, I love the, you know, interaction with people in the community that we've talked about earlier and being able just to be like, dude, we could start our day, Ricky, right? Like before this, we could have went to Skillets, had an amazing breakfast, right? Maybe we have a coffee here first, and then we go to Skillets, right?
Or put our names in at Skillets. Come over and get a coffee.
I'll text Priscilla and be like, Priscilla, this is what we want. She's amazing.
She's
and she's awesome. Yeah. And then, you know, we cruise. And then you and I could go fishing in the ponds right now. I just caught some nice bass, right?
There's down at Quarry Lakes?
Quarry Lakes, wow. I sight fish this time of year for bass. I actually caught one during my son's cross country track meet the other day, which was awesome.
Nice.
But we could do that, and then we come back. Maybe we have a little early, you know, light beer at the Flow, which is great. Tons of history there. Go get some gear at at the Devil's Workshop.
Right.
Get some
across
sweet hoodies and caps. So we're there. And then I'd say we go grab a slice at Bronco Billy's.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it funny, when people go to Bronco Billy's and they order a small and you're like, just get the slice, bro. Like,
I had somebody tell me that when I first got here. They're like, just get the slice. And I was like, I don't even know what like, why would I just want a slice? And then the first time I ordered, I was like, oh my goodness,
right.
This is awesome.
It's insane.
And I understand the reason they've had to raise the price a little bit, but
it's so worth it.
I remember when I first ordered it a few years ago, I was like, I cannot believe that I'm getting this. Like, I got bacon on mine because I love bacon, and I was like, the cost of the bacon alone, if I would have paid for this bacon like at Sprouts or something like that, was the cost of this pizza. It was like awesome.
No, it's amazing. And then, you know, maybe we walk around. You know, David Keane, I think, also does like a historical walk too about Niles. And he has these plans.
I've got to get him on.
Yeah, he's a good dude for sure. He's he's a great guy. But then, we could get some ice cream. We have two places to get ice cream, right? We either go super
Niles
like,
ice
healthy
cream
or we just get the crazy like Charlie Chaplin sundae. And for dinner, you know, we have a couple options. There's Joe's, and Frederico's, Ambro's.
I've mentioned this before in other episodes, but I just love the fact that in the middle of, I'll say the shadow of the Silicon Valley, which kind of doesn't make sense because a valley doesn't cause a shadow, but we're right in the middle of, you know, we're on the outside of the Silicon Valley where technology is a technological hub center of the world. And yet we can stay in this little community,
and that's why people want to live
and
here.
Literally feel like I'm a human being, and that I can enjoy all these savory sensory moments with friends, with people.
Yeah. I mean, I go for a walk. Like, I walk every night all the way I live in the Trees condos, and I walk to the post office and back every night. And I go through Mikey's. He gives my dog a Slim Jim, and then we keep cruising. And we have our route. But, you know, if I walk on a Saturday morning, it could be like a 2-hour deal because I'm talking to like Barry the painter. I'm saying hey to Gary Mills, who's putting out his cars. You know, I talked to Don Dewey, and I wave at the lady who's cleaning the Flow, and she's like, "Hound dog, let me give you a biscuit." So it is like this sense of community, and it's more of just how you. I was telling you earlier, it kind of starts with yourself, right? Yeah. Like what you can do inside for yourself mentally, you know, being in the present moment, right?
Yeah.
The past no longer exists. The future's not yet here. Kind of living in that moment, and then being there for your family and friends, and then getting to know your neighbors, right? Like,
well, and that really is my dream behind all of this.
Right, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, my dream is that we do live in a great community, and we do have so many amenities around us. And we have great people around us. But I think that sometimes we just are a little bit afraid to start a conversation with somebody.
It just takes a wave. Dude, my friend who runs on the trail says hi to, it's sometimes annoying. I'm like, Luis, you have to say hi to hi, hello, hey, hi. But it is kind of one of those, it's like, not an olive branch, because that's not a good thing. It's like bringing a piece of pie to someone's house who just moved in or something. Right. That doesn't happen as much anymore. Yeah. Everyone is... Oh, this is the one thing I wanted to say on the podcast. Yes. Everybody slow down, and the stop signs actually mean to stop, right? Dude, I skated over here. I'm like, everyone around here thinks a stop sign is a yield sign. Optional, so everyone, there you go. Anyways,
that's good. No, that's good, because I do, and it was important we put that new stop sign down the street.
The one by school has helped out so much during pickup. I'm just like, thank you. Yeah. But I don't know where. I was like community, getting to know everybody. And it's not like people, I think a lot of people take people who just kind of come home from working hard all day, close their garages. They don't want to talk to me. They're just not used to someone saying, hey, what's going on? Yeah. And especially, the Hindu or Muslim. Yeah. I have my neighbors, we all keep our garages open after 5. Oh, great. Now everyone's going to be like, Keith's garage is open. But everyone keeps their garage, and the kids come out. Yeah. And the kids play, wall ball. They play baseball. They draw chalk. They play tag. And these are kids that just see each other as friends. Yeah. Right.
Well, I mean, I'm ashamed to say I love community. But I would say I'm kind of ashamed to say I lived on my street, didn't really know my neighbors too well until COVID. And then when COVID happened, we realized how many kids we had on our street. And we all came out as parents, and we basically said, hey, we've got to do something for our kids. They need to be hanging out. So we kind of, the parents would come and stand at the mouth of the cul-de-sac, and the kids would play hide and seek and ride their bikes together all throughout COVID. Right. And now, our street, they're all best friends, and they're going down to each other's houses, garage doors open, they're hanging out at each other's house. And that's awesome.
I think if everyone just did a little bit more of that, if everyone just added a little bit more, my sign off on all of my emails is peace and compassion. And I think peace, we all want that, but compassion is something where it's like you really caring about your neighbor, about your community, and what you can do for it. Definitely. So
that's good. Keith, I have loved having you on here.
Yeah, it's been fun.
This is not the last time. We're going to have you back on here because we've got so many more things to talk about. Right. Yeah. And I know that you're also into just talking about a lot of the restaurants and other things around the community.
I said we should do a review.
I know. We got to do that. So we've got to sit down and
we'll talk more
and figure out a plan. But I've loved having you on here.
Yeah, it's been great. I've enjoyed it.
This is been a great conversation.
Love you, Niles. Love you, Fremont, for sure.
Yeah, if you see a guy walking down the street with his dog,
Basset Hound,
or
a 1966 Schwinn with all this stuff on it,
say hi to. And in the next day or two, while he's getting his compressor fixed, he'll be on a
there you go, Daryl. Yeah, if you need a compressor fix, go to Dave's Automotive. That's what's great. I can walk there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Done. So, all right, Niles.
Man, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right.
You've been listening to the Fremont Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you listen so you don't miss an episode. And if you're so inclined, leave a kind review so that others can find the podcast. To stay connected with us, you can find links to our social media and other content at thefremontpodcast.com. This episode was hosted, edited, and produced by Ricky B. Music provided through Soundstripe.com. I'm Gary Williams. Join us next week on the Fremont Podcast.
Muggins Media.